It was a pleasant, sunny morning in a busy English seaport. On every side was the hustle and bustle of the harbour. There were ships of every shape and size, but one in particular attracted the attention of the crowd, for she had never been seen in that town before. It was Captain Pugwash's ship, the Black Pig.
Funny sort of name.
She had sailed into the harbour the night before, and although she looked well enough outside, inside the captain and his crew were in a state of deepest gloom. It had been a bad season for pirates. There was no treasure left in the treasure chest, no food in the ration store, no rum in the rum barrel.
There isn't a smidge of gunpowder,
said the mate.
nor one single cannonball.
But at that, the captain brightened.
Cannonball!
He cried.
A ball! A party! A grand ball! A fancy dress ball! We'll have one on board the ship with a trip around the bay for good measure. We shall invite all the smartest and richest folk in town. They'll come in their finest clothes, gleaming with gold and silver, dripping with diamonds and gems. And once they're on board, we'll put a sleeping drug in their rum punch. And then, as we sail round the bay, they will all fall into a deep sleep, at which point we strip them of all their richest possessions, put them ashore, and sail away as wealthy as kings.
It's fantastic.
Said Willie.
Famous,
Cried Barnabas.
Fabulous.
Agreed the mate. The pirates all thought this was a splendid plan. Only Tom the cabin boy wasn't so sure. It seemed like daylight robbery to him. But Captain Pugwash was so pleased with his plot that he actually took a gold piece, which he pretended he hadn't got, out of his black piggy bank and gave it to the pirates to buy food and drink for the party. Then he wrote the invitations and gave them to Tom to deliver to all the smartest addresses in town. And it was while he was doing this that Tom noticed someone on the way who made him think of a quite different plan for the captain's party. So much so that he dropped one invitation accidentally on purpose on the pavement. And, as Tom had hoped, the someone picked it up. It was, of course, Cutthroat Jake, the captain's worst enemy, who, with his band of wicked pirates, just happened to be in the same town, and had already observed that Pugwash was there too.
Well, 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 breathed Jake. Now ain't that real generous of my old friend the captain? A ball on board ship, a trip round the bay, and fancy dress, eh? What you might call a golden opportunity. We accept with pleasure, eh, me beauties? With much pleasure, ho, ho, ho!
When the morning of the party came, Tom got out the dressing-up box. The mate put on the uniform of a footman. Willie disguised himself as a serving-maid. And Barnabas did his best to look like an honest seaman.
What about you, Captain?
Asked Tom, for Pugwash hadn't changed at all.
What are you meant to be?
Ah,
Replied the captain.
I'm dressed up as a... guess what? A pirate captain. How's that for a joke?
That afternoon, the guests began to arrive. Everybody who was anybody was there, masked, bewigged, and bejewelled. And all the people of the town gathered to watch them go aboard.
Lord, lady, Lord Duck.
something also spliced me membranes.
And you can Duchess and Ditchwater. Look at them sparklers. His worship's the mayor and his lady wife.
Charles!
As the mate announced the titles, the captain could hardly believe his good fortune. Soon the deck was crowded with guests. Never had such a distinguished company gathered on board the Black Pig.
Mix the rum punch, Tom,
Cried the captain. So Tom mixed it, and Willie served it, and Captain Pugwash, careful to take none himself, rubbed his hands with glee at the sight of all the riches which would be his when the drink began to take effect.
What a very fine tiara, Duchess. Let's hope Tom put plenty of dope in the drink.
Then, just as the captain was about to give the order to sail, the mate cried,
Wait, there's one more party to come aboard.
and sure enough, the strangest group, wearing tall black hats and masks and cloaks held high to conceal their faces, came striding up the gangplank.
Maybe they'll prove the richest of the lot beneath all that disguise,
thought the captain to himself, while Tom thought,
So far, so good.
Then,
Anchors away!
shouted the captain.
Forward, Miss Willie. Extra special drinks for our mystery guests.
So Tom mixed up some more of the rum punch, and indeed, it was extra special. Then, as the newcomers thirstily swallowed it all up, the ship sailed out of the harbour. The crowds waved them goodbye, and the guests settled down to enjoy the ball. Tom played merrily on his concertina, and it was not until the ship rounded the lighthouse that a terrible voice shouted,
Unmask, me handsomes!
Then off came the black hats and masks, and in a moment Pugwash and his crew and his guests found themselves confronted and surrounded by Cutthroat Jake and his bloodthirsty band.
Right, grab the loot!
Roared Cutthroat Jake. His wicked eye glinted, and his great black beard bristled with greed as he watched his villainous blackguards snatching the Duchess's diamonds, the mayor's chain of office, rings, necklaces, bracelets, silver watches, and purses of gold galore. Soon a great heap of booty lay in the middle of the deck. Jake chuckled with glee and addressed the guests.
Much obliged, I'm sure.
He growled.
And now, in return for your generosity, I'm going to set you all adrift in the longboat while we make our getaway in this here handsome vessel. But as for you, you scurvy lot,
He snarled, turning on Pugwash and his crew.
you what has contributed nothing to the Cutthroat Jake Benefit Fund. I'll waste no more time on your worthless skins. You'll walk the plank, every one of you.
And then, suddenly, even as he spoke, Jake blinked, swayed, and staggered, and fell flat on his back in a dead faint on the deck. And all his crew did the same. Captain Pugwash was astonished. Why had only Jake and his men suffered from the drugged drinks? But then he realized that all the guests were cheering, and they were cheering him. They didn't know, of course, that Pugwash had intended to rob them. Least of all did they know that it was all Tom's doing.
Bravo, Captain.
Cried the mayor.
Very quick thinking on your part. Dashed fine show.
Said Sir Splice Me Mainbase.
The skill and speed with which you dealt with those dreadful desperadoes has saved us all.
Then the guests recovered their stolen possessions, and the Black Pig sailed back into the harbour again. And Jake and his crew, awake but in irons, were marched away to the deepest dungeons of the town jail.
And now, Captain,
Said the mayor, when the guests had dispersed to their homes.
what can we do to reward you for all you have done for us?
Well, since you mention it, there are one or two little things we could do with.
Replied the captain.
A few ship's stores, perhaps. Provisions, rum, cannonballs, and gunpowder, so that we may set sail again and go about our honest trade.
It shall be done.
Said the mayor. And the next day, the mayor himself came to supervise the delivery of all the supplies the captain had asked for. There was even a handsome cash present for Pugwash himself to mark the skill and presence of mind with which he had disposed of Cutthroat Jake and his band.
Why, fancy that, Captain.
Said the mayor as he shook him warmly by the hand.
You're still wearing your fancy dress.
Suffering sea snakes, so I am,
cried the captain.
Young Tom ought to have reminded me. Not very bright, that cabin boy of mine.
And Tom smiled as he listened to the captain's remarks, but he said nothing.